Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3687, and today's date is July 16th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Gold is Signaling the Collapse of the Fiat System. Constitution Reset is Coming. Let me ask you a question. Are you looking to shed some pounds for this summer? Well, a recent study found nearly half of patients following popular weight loss trends quit within a year, often used lower than prescribed doses and ultimately lost less weight than they were led to believe. This is why I use this secret amazing new product, and I'm obsessed with the results. It is designed to naturally support my body's own GLP-1 production and boost levels by over 50% without drugs, prescriptions, or needles. It promotes the feeling of fullness, reduced cravings, reduced my hunger hormones, helps me lose fat instead of muscle, and supports healthy blood sugar levels. Summer is here. It's time to get that beach body ready. Grab yourself a bottle of GLP-1 now to save up to 44% only at trimwithx22.com. Plus, you also get 2 free ebooks titled The 3-Week Diet and 53 Fat-Burning Smoothies and Milkshakes. Once again, this offer is only available at trimwithx22.com. That is trimwithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see that they are now panicking because they could see what Trump is doing. Trump now is actually setting up the parallel economies, putting all the pieces in place to do what? To move us away from the Federal Reserve. And you can see the Genius Act is key to what he wants to do, because that includes the stable coin, which is actually going to back the U.S. dollar, which is going to actually support the U.S. dollar as we transition away from the Federal Reserve. And you can see as time goes on, the Federal Reserve, they are losing power. People are losing confidence in them. People are starting to understand that they are they're not nonpartisan. They are definitely political. And Trump keeps pointing the finger at Powell, and this is being done on purpose. Now, do I think Trump is going to fire him? Well, unless he did something criminal, unless he lied to Congress. Oh, wait, that's what he did. He's being investigated right now. So I do believe he will wait for the evidence to pour out, or he's waiting for the pressure to build where the Federal Reserve chairman actually resigns, and he can put his person in place where that person, I do believe, will be Scott Bessent, and that person will be able to restructure the entire Federal Reserve into the Treasury. And you could see that we're heading to a constitution reset, which means we're going back to the Constitution, we're going back to sound money. And you could see with everything that Trump is doing right now, he's putting all the pieces in place. And this is being done because, once again, the central bank system is the source of the problems in this country. A lot of people don't see it, but when you start to look around, everything that has happened since the Federal Reserve came into existence, it is caused by the open-ended credit card. It breeds corruption. They use the money to create organizations that we really don't need. And the deep state system, the central bank, they set up a system to protect themselves so it's never removed. And as the system goes on over time, the people are enslaved in it. And people have to work harder and harder and harder, and they're taxed more and more and more as time goes on. Trump now is prepared and ready to return the power back to the people. And I do believe this is why he's putting all these different bills in place. This is why he wants the Genius Act. This is why I do believe cryptocurrency was created, because this is going to allow us to basically ride out the storm of transitioning into a people's economy. Remember, the deep state, the central bankers, when they switched us over from the gold standard to fiat back in 1971, they didn't really care if there was a recession. They didn't care if there was a depression. They didn't care if people lost their money. They didn't care about any of that. Trump, I do believe he's weaving in and out of the central bank system, making sure that it doesn't affect the people in a bad way, where people lose their wealth, where people lose their jobs. So at the same time, as he's positioning everything to get rid of the central bank, he's actually creating the parallel system, which is getting stronger and stronger every single day. And this system is going to be able to compete against the central bank system. And soon it will be more powerful than the central bank system. And I do believe at that point in time, that's when Trump is going to actually make his move and start the transition. I don't believe it's going to happen just like that, like, snap of a finger. Let's transition today. You're going to see a slow process of moving us away from the Federal Reserve, because remember, he doesn't want people to get hurt as he creates the new economic system. And you can see that the central bank system does not work for the people, because if you go back a little bit in time, you can see that first-time home buyers since 2004, it has declined rapidly. Unusual Whales put this out and said the number of first-time home buyers in 2004 was nearly 3.2 million. That number is now 1.14 million. You have to ask the question, why? Yes, we know there's higher interest rates, but why did it drop almost in half or more than half? Because the entire economic system continually breaks down over when you have a central bank system. And Trump, he's continually pointing the finger at the Fed because he wants the Fed to lower the rates. And of course, the Fed doesn't want to lower the rates. I do believe they're waiting for some type of an event, and they're telling the Fed chairman to stay in that position where we have something coming. And I do believe Trump, he knows that something's coming, and he's just continually calling out the Fed because he wants the people to understand that the Fed is not working in our best interest. The Fed is actually hurting the economy. The Fed is not for the people. It never was. And yes, Trump said, listen, I'm looking to fire him. Then he said, no, I'm not really looking to fire him. But I think he just wants him gone. And I think eventually what's going to happen with all the investigations and everything that's going on with the Fed, I do believe Trump will have enough ammunition to remove him or force him out. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. But Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: Fed should cut rates by 3 points. Very low inflation, $1 trillion a year would be saved. And that's absolutely true. And think about how this would actually push the economy forward, and the economy would really start to accelerate. Because again, you lower the rates, more and more people are brought into the market where they can purchase a house. More and more people say, you know what, this might be the time to purchase a car. Businesses can get loans at a lower interest rate. This would spur economic growth very, very quickly. And Trump, the Patriots, they know this. The Fed knows this. And this is why the Fed is pushing back as hard as they possibly can. But you can see that Trump, he's continually making deals around the globe. And I do believe you're going to see a lot more countries come to the negotiating table and make these trade deals because they understand that they will not be able to survive with the high tariffs that Trump has placed on them. Trump has just made a deal with the Republic of Indonesia, and this is what he put out on Truth. This morning, I finalized an important deal with the Republic of Indonesia. After speaking with the highly respected president, this landmark deal opens up Indonesia's entire market to the United States for the first time in history. As part of the agreement, Indonesia has committed to purchasing $15 billion in U.S. energy, $4.5 billion in American agricultural products, and 50 Boeing jets, many of them 777s. For the first time ever, our ranchers, farmers, and fishermen will have complete and total access to the Indonesian market of over 280 million people. In addition, Indonesia will pay the United States a 19% tariff on all goods they export to us, while U.S. exports to Indonesia are to be tariff and non-tariff barrier free. If there's any transshipment from higher tariff countries, then the tariff will be added on to the tariff that Indonesia is paying. Thank you to the people of Indonesia for your friendship and commitment to balancing our trade deficit. We will keep delivering for the American people and the people of Indonesia. And look what Trump just did. He just opened the entire market, which is actually going to help the fishermen. It's going to help the manufacturers. And we're going to see business here in the United States take off. Plus, he shut down the transshipment from China. Because once again, what do you think China's going to try to do? They're going to try to use the back door to get their products to the United States. And every deal that Trump is making right now is actually shutting down China and isolating China at the same exact time. And this is going to be a huge problem for China in the end. And Trump, you could see that across the world, he's evening the playing field. Because again, what are we doing? We're moving away from the Federal Reserve. We're moving away from the globalist system. Basically, the globalist central bank system is coming to an end. And the writing is on the wall. It's very, very easy to see. And Trump now, he's made a deal with Apple. Apple now is backing Trump in a push for rare earth minerals and is expected to announce a $500 million investment in the only rare earth mine currently operating in the United States. Apple plans to invest $500 million in the Las Vegas-based rare earth mining company MP Materials. And you can see that this is going to help the United States quite a bit. You have to remember, The deep state players, the central bankers, they wanted us dependent on China. Yes, China wanted that too. But now Trump has made a deal with Ukraine. We can get their rare earth minerals. I do believe he would like to make a deal with Greenland where we can get their rare earth minerals. We're also going to mine and use the rare earth minerals here in the United States. So when you start to look at it right now, Trump is detaching us from China and many of the other countries and making sure that we have the ability to create or mine their rare earth minerals. You know what's interesting? Most investments today feel like second jobs in disguise. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. You deserve a strategy that builds wealth without sacrificing your time, sanity, or freedom. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Gold doesn't demand your attention. It doesn't crash overnight. It doesn't care who's trending on Twitter. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands of investors just like you, people who want both profit and peace of mind, secure their future with real physical gold. There's a reason smart investors are going back to the basics, choosing the only asset trusted by civilizations for over 5,000 years. Gold offers freedom and peace of mind, 1 ounce at a time. Visit x22gold.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's x22gold.com. Don't invest in a second job. Invest in your freedom. And here's a bonus for you. Get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at x22gold.com and they'll send you 2 5-ounce Silver America, the beautiful coins, free. That is x22gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And this is going to help the United States in the end. Just like with everything that Trump is doing, it is helping the United States. It's not hurting the United States. And you know what's very interesting? All the economists, the Fed, and all these experts, they're completely and utterly wrong. Remember, all these people, they've been taught by the Federal Reserve. Their education was by the Federal Reserve System. This is what they know. And they were taught that tariffs are bad, tariffs are going to hurt you, tariffs is going to cause inflation. But you have to remember, the Federal Reserve, they don't want anyone to know that tariffs do not cause inflation. They don't want anyone to know where inflation actually really comes from. Because if people started to figure it out, people would say, well, wait a minute, it comes from the Federal Reserve, it comes from the spending, it comes from the creation of currency. Why do we have the Federal Reserve? That's what people would start to say. But you could see already that the deep state players, the economists, the Fed, all these publications that say they're experts, they're all completely and utterly wrong. And Wokeness put this out and said, June spending was a $27 billion surplus. You know what the expectation was from the experts? $50 billion deficit. June wholesale prices, 0% inflation. Expectation from the experts, 0.2% inflation. June consumer price, 0.2% increase. Expectation was 0.3% increase. June industry production, 0.3% gain. Expectation, 0.1% gain. So the numbers don't lie. People could see the truth now, and all these economists, all the experts are completely and utterly wrong. And they're going to be wrong every single step of the way, because again, their education comes from what? The Federal Reserve. And they've been taught a certain way. And yes, there are some individuals that are shills. There are some individuals that are being paid to push a certain agenda. But again, Trump is not just saying it, he's proving it to the people, which the Federal Reserve, the deep state players, the fake news, this is something they can't do. They can't prove it to the people. All they could do is say, oh, you know what's going to happen? The economy is going to fall apart. Oh, you know what's going to happen? Everything that he said is not going to work and nobody's going to have a job. Well, that's all they can say. But Trump has said, you know, I'm not going to say anything. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, but I'm going to show you firsthand. You're going to feel it yourself. And once you feel it, once you understand it, then you'll understand that they are wrong. And that's what people are feeling. Peter Sayong, PhD, put this out and said, 69 economists discovered tariffs didn't cause the apocalypse. No breadlines, no flaming wheelbarrows of dollars, just the fastest wage growth in 60 years. Absolutely. Geiger Capital put this out and said, PPI in June came in lower than all 50 forecasters in Bloomberg's survey predicted. J.D. Vance responded to this and said, it's almost like the economics profession doesn't fully understand tariffs. Of course they don't. They don't get it at all. Because once again, their education didn't allow them to see this. It's almost like when Big Pharma teaches the medical profession that vaccines, their medication is the only way. They don't see anything else. And this is what hurts them in the end because, again, the truth comes out and people actually see it, they understand it, they feel it. And this is something they cannot counter. And Trump now is going to be using the Genius Act to transition us away from the Federal Reserve note. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: Happy Crypto Week. The House will soon vote on a tremendous bill to make America the undisputed number one leader in digital assets. Nobody does it better. The Genius Act is going to put our great nation light years ahead of China, Europe, and all others. We're trying endlessly to catch up, but they just can't do it. Digital assets are the future, and we're leading by a lot. Get the first vote done this afternoon. All Republicans should vote yes. This is our moment. Digital assets, genius, clarity. It is part of making America great again, bigger and better than ever before. We're leading the world and will work hard with the Senate and the House to get even more legislation on this passed. Then he said, I'm in the Oval Office with 11 of the 12 congressmen, women necessary to pass the Genius Act. And after a short discussion, they have all agreed to vote tomorrow morning in favor of the rule. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was at the meeting via telephone and looks forward to taking the vote as early as possible. I want to thank the congressmen and women for their quick and positive response. Make America great again. And yes, does this act have to be passed? Yes, it does. Because this allows Trump to move to the next phase. Because the next phase is actually backing up the U.S. dollar. Not the Federal Reserve note, but backing up the dollar. We'll be discussing that in just a sec. But Peter Sayong let us know that gold right now is letting us know that the fiat currency is absolutely collapsing right in front of our eyes. And this is what he put out on X. Gold prices say the fiscal collapse is accelerating. Since the 2008 crisis, the value of gold compared to fiat money has tripled. Another tripling, and it's game over. Hey, I remember a post where it says, gold destroys the Fed. Because what do you think happens when you remove all the manipulation, remove the paper markets that manipulated the gold and silver market? You're going to see gold move up to $40, $50, $60, $70,000. We discussed this a couple days ago. Because if you remove all the manipulation, everything the central bank has put into place, all of a sudden gold moves to the point where Bitcoin is. And where's Bitcoin today? Well, Bitcoin is over $100,000, and Bitcoin is about, 120,000? So I do believe gold is going to get very, very close to that once we remove the manipulation. Remember, Bitcoin was created back in 2008, and since 2008, the central bankers have had a very difficult time trying to manipulate Bitcoin. Gold and silver, they've learned going back a long time ago how to manipulate gold and silver, and you can see that this manipulation is coming to an end. But once again, we know that Trump, as we transition into the gold standard, as we move away from the fiat currency, as we go back to the Constitution, he needs something to prop up the U.S. dollar. And the Genius Act and regulated stablecoins will help prop up the U.S. dollar during the transition. And this is based on economic analysis. So stablecoins like USDC or USDT are already pegged to the U.S. dollar and hold vast reserves in U.S. treasuries. The act mandates one-to-one backing with U.S. dollar cash equivalents or short-term treasuries, turning stablecoin issuers into major buyers of U.S. government debt. During a Fed to Treasury restructuring, we might disrupt traditional money creation and lead to volatility in treasury markets. This could absorb excess debt supply, especially if foreign nations continue dumping treasuries. If the transition involves backing currency with gold or other assets, stablecoins could serve as a digital bridge. The act allows Treasury oversight of stablecoins, potentially bypassing the Fed, enabling direct Treasury-backed issuance. For example, like when Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has highlighted stablecoins as a tool to reinforce dollar dominance, and the act could facilitate gold-pegged variants for a smoother move to sound money. By providing regulatory clarity, the act could accelerate stablecoins' use in payments, DeFi, and remittances, creating Dollar 3.0, a programmable, blockchain-based USD equivalent. This might maintain public confidence in the U.S. dollar amid uncertainty from the Fed restructuring, as stablecoins offer faster, cheaper transactions while remaining tied to the dollar value. In regions with FX instability, stablecoins already provide retail access to dollars, countering de-dollarization efforts like those from the BRIC nations. The Genius Act's framework for stablecoins could substantively aid U.S. dollar stability by enhancing demand for dollar-linked assets, providing a digital safety net, and facilitating Treasury-led innovation, potentially aligning with a constitutional reset. And I do believe this is why Trump is putting everything into place, because he's going to use stable coins. He's going to use the blockchain. He's going to use this to back the dollar as we transition from the Federal Reserve and as we move back to the Constitution, move back to the gold standard. And I do believe when you see all the manipulation start to be stripped away, you're going to see gold, you're going to see silver, you'll see Bitcoin even go even higher. Because once again, the main goal of all of this is to remove the system that created all of this. I mean, yeah, we can have tariffs. We could just reverse a couple of executive orders. But if you keep the Federal Reserve in place, basically what's going to happen over time, very, very quickly, they're just going to put everything back in place. They're going to just remove the tariffs. They're going to go back to the Federal Reserve. They're going to go back to taxing people, even though people don't want to be taxed. It might take a little while to convince people that you have to be taxed. But over time, maybe 10 years, you're going to see everything return. So Trump knows that he needs to remove the Federal Reserve. He needs to remove the open-ended credit card. And in the end, needs to remove the Federal Reserve Act and actually remove the 16th Amendment. And you can see by doing what he's doing right now, he's making sure that the economy transitions in a very smooth way so it doesn't hurt the everyday person. Because once again, anytime you make a transition from one system to another, a lot of things can go wrong. So Trump, he's doing this very, very carefully, very, very slowly. I mean, slowly for most people, but this is a very quick operation if you really think about it. Because think about how long it took the Federal Reserve System to remove us from the gold standard. They were basically created in 1913. We became the reserve currency in the 40s. And from the 40s, it took all the way up to 1971 to remove us off of the gold standard. I do believe with the creation of the blockchain system and cryptocurrency, it's allowing Trump to move a lot faster than he could without it. So I do believe we're going to see everything start to change, and you're going to see the central bank, they're going to start to really panic. I think they're panicking right now. And I do believe this is why they're keeping the Fed in position and not allowing him to resign or anything like that. I mean, eventually, if the case shows that he did lie to Congress, that there was some other type of criminal activity, he might be forced to resign. But you could see the deep state players are going to try to keep him in place long enough to create their event. But again, I do believe Trump wants the Genius Act in place so when they start to push their event, he has the ability to prop up the dollar. He has the ability to protect this country from what they're trying to do. And I do believe they're going to probably try some type of cyber attack to bring down their own financial institutions. And again, in the end, this is not going to work whatsoever. And you can see we are on our way right now, moving away from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, the globalist system, it's at its end. And I think the people of the world, they're starting to realize this. And the central bankers, yeah, they'll try to fight back with everything that they have, but in the end, it will all fail. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.